Well, I was looking for some peace humor for us this morning. And it'll be your discernment whether you think it's humorous or not. So there was a blonde guy living on a farm. And he didn't get very many visitors, so I went to see him. And when I got there, he was standing stiff as a board out in the middle of the cow pasture. And I yelled out to him and asked what in the world he was doing standing out there all straight and stiff. And he replied that he was trying to win a Nobel Peace Prize. I said, well, that's great, but what are you doing in the pasture? And he replied, well, I was reading the newspaper, and it said all you had to do to win the Nobel Peace Prize was to be outstanding in your field. There's more. Stay tuned for the next 64 days. Peter, welcome back. Peter Adams has been gone for a while. Welcome back. I just had to say that. Thank you for your patience with the parking this morning. I'm sure you've probably navigated. I can see that, we have people that come and clear, and bless their hearts, that said it took them 22 hours to clear the snow. So here we are. We weathered through, and we're here, and we're the stronger for it. So today is our opening for the Season for Peace and Nonviolence, and I got to tell you, this is just one of my favorite focuses. Peace and nonviolence can be, and hopefully is, a focus always, and it just seems especially wonderful to take the time to really focus on it for 64 days. And so this season was created by an organization called the Association for Global New Thought, and it was initially created to start on January 30th and end on April 4th, which commemorates the assassination of Gandhi on the 30th of January and Martin Luther King Jr. on the 4th of April. And so we're just kind of shifting it just a little bit just to fit our Sunday schedule. And so, yes, we are honoring those two peacemakers for the work that they have done in the world. And we're also adding His Holiness the Dalai Lama to that list of people that we're especially thanking and honoring during this 64-day season, but also other people. And you're going to hear me talk about other people, Cesar Chavez and other people that have so added to this conversation and the experience on our planet of more peace expressed and nonviolence. So welcome, and I look forward to sharing this 64-day focus with you. And so here we are, and we're looking at peace, and we talk a lot about peace, but really, what is peace? And so I found a quote from this neat little book by Louise Diamond. The book is The Peace Book, 108 Simple Ways to Create a More Peaceful World. And this is what she has to say in answering that question, what is peace? Peace is more than the absence of violence or conflict. Peace is a presence, the presence of connection. Peace is a state of mind and a path of action, and above all, peace is a way of being. Peace is a way of being. So peace is presence, it's connection, it's a state of mind, I think, and heart. Peace is a way of being. It's definitely not a thing or something you can go by, but it certainly seems to be an experience, a feeling, a knowing that we all desire. So there's a story about an ancient Indian king who was obsessed with the desire to find the meaning of peace. And questions like, what is peace? How can we get it? When we find it, what should we do with it? Were some of the questions that really bothered him. And so intellectuals in his kingdom were invited to answer the king's questions for a handsome reward. Many tried, but none could explain how to find peace and what to do with it. And at last, someone suggested that the king ought to consult the sage who lived just outside the borders of his kingdom. He is an old man and very wise, the king was told. If anyone can answer your questions, he can. So the king went to the sage and posed these eternal questions. And without a word, the sage went into the kitchen and brought a grain of wheat to the king. In this grain of wheat, you will find the answer to your question, the sage said as he placed that grain of wheat in the king's outstretched hand. Puzzled, but unwilling to admit his ignorance, the king clutched the grain of wheat and returned to his palace. He locked the precious grain in a tiny gold box and placed the box in a safe. Each morning upon waking, the king would open the box and look at the grain to seek an answer, but could find nothing. Weeks later, another sage passing through stopped to meet the king, who eagerly invited him to resolve his dilemma. The king explained how he had asked the eternal question, and this sage gave him a grain of wheat instead. I have been looking for an answer every morning, but I find nothing. And the sage said, it's quite simple, Your Honor. Just as the grain represents nourishment for the body, peace represents nourishment for the soul. Now, if you keep this grain locked up in a gold box, it will eventually perish without providing nourishment or multiplying. However, if it is allowed to interact with the elements that cultivate it, light, water, air, and soil, it will flourish, multiply, and soon you would have a whole field of wheat, which will nourish not only you, but many others. This is the meaning of peace. It must nourish your soul and the souls of others. It must multiply by interacting with the elements that cultivate it. So according to this story, peace must nourish the soul and the souls of others, and it's multiplied and cultivated by essential factors that call forth its full expression. Okay, so we must nurture and nourish peace, but something else has to come first. To nourish peace, we must be able to find peace. Where do we find it? Where do we find peace? Folks, peace is just right here. And I know we talk about that. And just like the song that we just heard, that change begins within us. You know, peace might not be one of the 12 powers, but peace is definitely an aspect of our divine nature. And it's an aspect of the world. And I think that can be where it gets a little tricky. You know, when we see all the conflict in the world, we can come here on Sunday morning and we can, I think, begin to cultivate in our awareness and in our knowing that, wow, there's a part of me, might say a part of me, that really is peace. Folks, I'm going to assert that the wholeness that you are is peace. The essence that you are is peace. Regardless, again, of how you feel or how you're thinking or whether you believe it or not, your essence is peace. And it's the same thing when we look out in the world. And regardless of whether we see what ISIS is doing or politicians are doing or whatever we hear on the news, that underneath it all is peace. And if we look deep enough into anything, we will find its inherent nature. We just get to keep looking. If it's not obvious sometimes, don't we? So, where do we find peace? We find peace within us. It is because it's what we are. And then that story talked about these essential factors. Well, the essential factors to cultivate a culture of peace, to nourish it, is in this room. We are those essential factors, folks. It's just another word for saying, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. And really, it's such a simple message, but I don't know about you. sometimes when I'm in my life, the last thing I think about is I'm peace. Yeah. Because when life seems to just happen to us, we can feel victimized by it. It can feel bigger than us. Whatever it is, you know what's going on in your life. And the opportunity that we have, especially for the next 64 days, is for us to focus on what is mine to do to be peace, to know peace, and to express peace, no matter what. And the nonviolent part comes up. You know, I think sometimes we think that violence is just when we're, being outwardly harsh and mean and maybe fighting, but nonviolence comes and is expressed when we look in the mirror each morning and we are kind and we love each other. We love ourselves and we love each other. Because I tell you what, some of the most violent things I have ever said have been to myself. And I'm not really proud of that, but it's the truth. And so when we think about nonviolence, I just invite you, especially over the next 64 days, to focus on speaking kindly to yourself, thinking kinder thoughts about others and yourself. And that ties in as we focused on being impeccable with our word from the Fifth Agreement. Gandhi said, "There is no way to peace. Peace is the way." And so, as we claim that and as we know that, we do open up the way for peace to express. Because, folks, the only way that there's going to be peace on earth is for us to get it, that we're peace. It starts here. It starts in our own heads and our own hearts. It starts in our family, in our work environment. Yes, I always bring up the Beltway because since I moved back here, boy, is that an opportunity. I think you get what I'm saying. It's a simple message, but I think it's a profound one. And so another thing that Louise Diamond talked about was that peace is an action. And, there are people in this world that have really stepped out knowing that they're peace and have called it forth. And that's some of what I can't wait to share with you about over the next 64 days. And there's a woman. Do we have that picture? Is it going to work? I'm so excited. Okay, I don't know if you can see her. But I don't know if you're a baby boomer, or you might remember a woman in 1953. Her name was Peace Pilgrim. And this year marks the 63rd anniversary of a peace pilgrimage by a silver-haired woman calling herself Peace Pilgrim, who walked more than 25,000 miles from 1953 until 1981 on a personal pilgrimage for peace. And this is what she said: "I will remain a wanderer until humankind has learned the way of peace, walking until given shelter, and fasting until given food." In the course of her 28-year pilgrimage, she touched the hearts, minds, and lives of thousands of people across North America. And her message was both simple and profound, and continues to inspire people all over the world. She said, in order for the world to become peaceful, people must become more peaceful and more mature. It always comes back to the thing so many of us wish to avoid: working to improve ourselves. And I think what she means about maturity is spiritual maturity. Yeah. Because as you do your it's just calling us up to do the work. As we do that inner work, we're able to peel away those layers that say, no, I'm not peace, or I can't be peace, or that person's not peace, or this situation can't be peace. What Peace Pilgrim and people like her are demonstrating and have demonstrated for us is that we can call it forth, no matter what. But we've got to be willing to do our work to access it. So peace is an action. So this week and the coming week and the next 64 days, I just invite you to work with, in meditation, the statement that we worked with for our meditation this morning. I am divine peace. And again, just to notice if anything comes up for you as you're affirming that, any resistance, that's where the work is. And to remind ourselves, yes, that peace is action. And in your bulletin this morning, you should have one of these. Does everyone have one? Okay, it's 64 ways for 64 days, daily commitments to live by during the season for peace and nonviolence. And so today, I will reflect on what peace means to me. And so I just invite you over the next 64 days to put this on your refrigerator or just carry it with you in your purse or your backpack or whatever. And just, this is a way to be in action about peace. Just every day, there's a focus for you. And as you embrace it, as you say, okay, today I'm going to reflect on what peace means to me, it will be in the forefront of your awareness. So I hope you enjoy working with that over the next 64 days. So let's affirm together our affirmation. I am divine peace. I claim this truth and open the way for peace to express in the world, because we are that way. And so it is. And so it is.